What is up, gamers? Welcome to another episode of Casual Master Quest. This is episode number 36. Welcome. I'm your host for the episode, Nick, and this is Tyler. Tyler, how's it going?
Hello. I'm doing great, man. How about you, though?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing all right.
I know. We're all like all hyped up on Nitro and Sugar and stuff. Like we're doing okay. It's an average week. It's been a week.
It's been a week. Yeah, it has been a week.
It has been 7 days since we last recorded.
It has been 7 days. 6 days.
Semantics, okay? We're not going to discuss the tragedy that was the re-recording of last week.
No, yeah, it happened, and then we made it through. And despite our efforts of cutting out a section, it still ended up being about an hour and a half long. I don't know how we did it.
I do believe the thing that we agreed on was, we should totally make this only an hour long so we can, be respectful with each other. That did not happen at all.
No, it didn't.
It was brutal.
But how's your week been, bud?
It's been an interesting week. I'm not too proud of, talking about this kind of stuff in terms of mental health or whatnot, but a recent string of events with myself over at work has kind of put me into a bit of a depression. I'm not going to lie. I was really down throughout most of this week. It was not pretty. I was like eating ice cream straight from the carton, all that stuff. Actually, that's normal. So it's really low key. And it's like, sometimes I got to look in the mirror. I'm like, what is that in my eye? Is that depression? Oh no, I got the depression. And it gets upsetting. It's like, I didn't have Vicine ready. I didn't have any, anything prepared for it. And honestly, fighting it back can be a bit rough. It's a lot of mental coaching, all that stuff. Got to find the right vices, which is not to be, alcohol and cigarettes, tempting as it is. You know those routes sometimes. Some people just feel like, that'll make me happy. In this case, for me, it was a 28-ounce porterhouse steak. And turns out that was a hell of a cure. Maybe not the end-all be-all, but right now, after eating what felt like half a cow, I feel pretty good. Man, it was a very, very nice steak.
Oh, yeah. How do you get your steaks done?
My steaks done, I prefer a nice oak with a good glaze, something that will really pierce the vampire's chest.
Right.
But in terms of my steak, though, there's got to be red, right? There has to be red in the steak, or at least pink.
At least some pink. Yeah.
Yeah, at least some pink. I'm the kind of guy that if you say if there's the word well in your description of the steak, I get kind of like, oh, come on, what are you doing to yourself? You're just wasting a good cow. I am a medium rare kind of guy. Today I decided to get it rare, which with that much steak, I probably should have gotten medium rare because but that's over 1.5 pounds of moo right there. That's that's a lot of blood and juice. It was good. I think my stomach was like, what are you doing, man? Did you score a kill in the wild? What happened? We're not used to eating this much. Oh man, you found a sweet potato too on your way back? It was good though. I had a very good enjoyment. It's good to start. I think everything's going back on the right track. I just need to, keep a cool head about everything. But what about you, Nick? How's your weekend been like?
My weekend's been all right.
I'm gonna say your week too, I suppose.
Yeah.
Your weekend.
My mood's been off very much this week, and I there's no reason why. I've just been upset. And I'm not talking about like I feel bad, kind of like crying, kind of upset. No, I've been like pissed. Just anything will just kind of set me off, any kind of minor annoyance. Part of that I feel like is due to the shitty drivers I faced this week. Two in particular stand out. One of them was in the parking lot for my campus. Now imagine this. You're going down like a little grid. You're looking for parking in a big parking lot, and I'm on. There's a turn. It's causing like a T-junction right in front of me.
Okay.
Right? There's cars all around me, all parked, and I'm on the right side of the lane where I should be. Taking my time, looking around for a spot, and then a motherfucker in a smart car. Tyler, do you know how big a smart car is?
It's about the size of an overlarge Tonka truck. Yes.
Yeah. So a smart car comes out of this perpendicular lane and takes the right turn into me, but takes 2 whole lanes to take that right turn and almost smacks right into me.
How is that even possible?
I don't know how that's possible with a smart car.
Like as the center line.
I wouldn't be upset if it was if it was a F1 truck, because I understand they're big. these are little tight parking parking lot lanes. So I understand if maybe I had to slow down or they just didn't, whatever, because I have a small 2-door hatchback. This is a smart car smaller than my car, and that really upset me. And then there was another driver as I was on my way to school. I was about 3 signals away. They were all green. There was a guy in front of me who slowed down at the green light, like slowed down all the way till about 5 or 10. And that annoyed me because there was still, I believe, like 12 seconds left on the crossing. So they could have gone. There was no reason for them to slow down. I'm like, you know what? Maybe they're confused. Maybe they're lost. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. It's annoying, but it's fine.
I have a hunch right here that this story might deteriorate even a little bit further here to where your kindness and second chance here is about to go down the drain. Let's continue.
And then they do it again. And then I can see the motherfucker laughing in his mirror, in his side view mirror, as I'm fucking honking my heart out because I had to get to class. I was late for class too, and this guy was just slowing down for the fun of it. And I'm like, I don't understand the kind of like joy you get out of like fucking with people. I sincerely at that moment I was wishing that his grandmother stepped on a Lego and fell and broke her hip or something, because fuck that guy.
Wow, that's a lot more vicious than I would have ever gotten from you. But admittedly, I believe the last time you talked about one of your miseries with traffic incidents, you were also very, I wouldn't go as far as say toxic, but just pure malice. Just
I don't understand these people. A lot of these people should not be driving. I believe that people who drive like that should be euthanized. Sorry, no. That's the wrong word. It should be neutered. That's the word that I was looking for.
Okay, Nick.
Yeah.
Nick,
I should never be in charge of any kind of country whatsoever.
So it's interesting here because Nick had recently asked me to try to find like minute-long clips to put onto a Instagram. Just, you know, good moments of the show.
Yeah.
It's like, good old Nick with the hot takes. But damn, euthanized.
Yeah, no.
Dr. Death.
That's a little bit harsh. I dislike certain kinds of drivers, and it just upsets me, and I have to learn how to let a lot of that anger go, because I don't actually do anything. It just because I'm not a physically violent person. I'm not a verbally abusive person. I'll rarely ever go out of my way to verbally abuse somebody specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I get it out by saying shit like this. But I have to figure out another way to get it out, because otherwise it's not healthy if it just keeps upsetting my mood throughout the week, you know?
I did mention this before, that it feels like talking on the podcast almost feels cathartic. It does bring out stronger emotions that we otherwise would suppress until, you know, the one day that they run out of stamps at the post office, and then it's like, okay, gloves are coming off. We need to let everything out right here and now, and this federal worker needs to know right here. Yeah, it's really cathartic. When it comes to this week, with all the weather that I've been receiving over here in good old Michigan, drivers reacted differently. Some people are seasoned pros and all that stuff. They know how to handle snow. They know how to be cautious, but also smart and efficient and safe at the same time. You know, some people know, you know, 2 tracks, but they know it's been salted recently or something like that. They know what speed they can go and get away with. Some people are like, we got to do 5 miles an hour all the way there. And then there's some people like, shit, fuck this. Let's do 75. Let's go balls to the wall. Let's floor down this, and they, flip over.
Yep.
There was a couple of rough times. Like I saw a semi truck apparently hit a spot of black ice, swung around, did a 180 on the highway, and then wrapped itself around the pillars that supported a bridge.
Ooh.
Like just wrapped itself, like it bent around this bridge pillar. And the driver was okay. In fact, he survived. I'm not sure how okay he is, but
thank God. Yeah.
But that it was destructive. It was vicious, and there was a lot of times where we saw people shoot past us in the passing lane that wasn't as well salted and stuff. And then 10-15 miles down the road, we see them sideways or spun out into the snow or whatnot, and it stinks. I was not driving, mind you, so I might have made a different decision, but we couldn't even stop or pull over, because if we did in those kind of conditions, where are we going to pull over? Are we going to pull over into the shoulder that's completely iced over and go over ourselves? because we can't just stop in the only available lane that isn't going to offer like life or death situations.
Right.
And so, you know, different reasons, but I do understand how sometimes, you know, be safe, drivers, you know, be smart about how you handle things, because you're holding multiple ton vehicles that can impact a lot of people's lives. And some people, they kind of, you know, kid about and joke about it, like, haha, I'm in a car, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, you could, you know, you could kill somebody. And you know, that's a bit brutal, but it's just, as a professional driver, that's the way I have to see things. But, you know, not to get all dark and gloom and doom over here, but...
Oh, no, for sure. But, like, these are things that apply to everybody, yeah. It's a heavy start to the podcast, but beyond that, Tyler, have you been...
This is our Gothic episode.
This is our emo episode. We're going backwards in time.
Dye my hair blue.
Get the black lipstick, black nail polish out. Fucking go balls to the wall all the way.
I left that in sophomore year in high school, okay?
Well, it's time to pick it back up. Have you been riding Passenger a lot this week, Tyler?
Yes, absolutely. I've spent so much time playing video games over in the passenger side. You can always tell with how many games I played or post about, because on a day where I'm driving, I'll like, I only got to play 1 or 2 games. And then during the times where I'm usually passenger, it's like, I've beaten so many games. What am I doing with myself over here? In this case, man, I've totally beaten the hell out of 2 very well-known games, at least to me. I'm not sure, you know, if the whole world knows about them, but I'd like to think so. The first one, and this has been long due, is Battle Chef Brigade. Now, Battle Chef Brigade, oh man. There was a point when I first got it, when it first came out, I got a free copy of it for Steam, played it, got all the way to, I would say, about 2/3 of the way with it. Was enjoying it, but I was playing it so much I kind of felt burnt out. So I was like, I'm going to take a little break. But then I accidentally took a year-long break. It was like, whoops. Right. And so I got back into it again on Steam. And it's like, man, I want to play this on the controller, and I technically can, but it just kind of feels weird. And so I thought about it long and hard over the past couple of weeks, and I decided that I got it free twice on you know, the computer. One through, I believe it was Twitch, one through a review copy from the company, and then I decided I was actually going to pay for it, and I bought it for the Switch. And as it turns out, Battle Chef Brigade on the Switch was a very great idea. It is perfect, it is smooth, it is just absolutely everything I could ask for out of the game. Now, I would like to think that most people know what Battle Chef Brigade is, right? I hope so.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I know about Battle Chef Brigade.
It's an action,
dude.
I mean, the main crux of the game, yeah, the main focus where you actually, you know, play when you get into Battle Chef Brigade. It is, you know, it's a battle-like setting where you're getting fed one of 3 elements, where the judge is like, oh, I want a dish that has fire elements in it. And, you know, Puyo Puyo. When I say the words Puyo Puyo, people hopefully know that I'm talking about the, you know, the blob-colored blocks that you toss together and whatnot. You're doing that with this, except you're going out and hunting monsters, you know, in this little backyard area of this arena, killing them, taking their meats and body parts and other goodies, tossing into a pantry. And then you're essentially playing a Puyo Puyo game where you're setting up your own pieces, which are pieces of the monsters you've destroyed. And so in this case, there's either going to be fire, water, or earth for the Puyo Puyo pieces. You put them together. In this case, you want to get as much fire as possible while also getting the ingredient that they request as the main meal. Like they'll be like, I want dragon. And the person that does the voice acting for that character, oh man, I can't remember. I think his name is Common. That's Camin. He is fantastic as a voice actor. Bless him. And so trying to cook and doing a battle sequence where you're trying to dodge monsters' attacks and whatnot, and then turning it into a puzzle set piece while trying to gather up a score and beat a clock and beat the other opponent. It is so good. It's almost intense. It like, I'm not good with clocks, Nick. Like,
no,
you give me a 10-minute clock with a 2-minute task, I will panic. But this puts on the heat, all pun intended, and it's so nice. And so I finally beat the game. It wasn't as long as I was expecting it to be after, you know, I replayed it for the 3rd time, but it was a good, fun game, Nick.
How many hours do you think you put into it on the Switch?
I would say just a little bit around 10 hours at the most.
Okay, and you were like going hard as fuck into playing the game, like finishing up.
I was powering through it.
Okay, yeah.
And I do believe it just came out recently. There is a new section or DLC of sorts. It was technically a Kickstarter thing by Adult Swim, and technically Adult Swim. I believe that is the publisher, but the developers were putting out like, oh, if we get this amount, we'll release this character as a side thing. In this case, it was Ziggy. Ziggy is one of the characters from the game who is a very witty and very hilarious necromancer type character.
Okay.
Who couldn't give two shits about the tournament that's going on, but he wanted to have fun with it, and everybody loved him. And they hit a DLC or a Kickstarter goal back in the day that they were able to have him as an optional character to play on later. So I'm hoping to look into that and give that a shot, because I feel like that's going to be even more fun and dialogue that I need. Because you could simply just cook. There's daily cook-offs and fun that you could have that isn't campaign based. So I'm looking to do that because I don't want to put it down and give it up. But it's one of those games where it feels like you beat it and you're done. And that stinks because there's so much more to be had out of it. I feel like the replayability on that is real.
Battle Chef Brigade.
Yeah, Battle Chef Brigade. Are you okay there, Nick?
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I was just looking to make sure that everything's okay. So Battle Chef Brigade, you were talking to me about Destiny Child.
Destiny
a lot
Child,
this
yes.
week. Yeah.
Oh boy, I have spoken like this weird wise hentai sage that I was. Not hentai. Eki. You know, it's family friendly of sorts, if you will.
Right. Sure.
So without any
the line between family friendly and hentai with that game is very thin. By the way, it can barely hold. It's just as thin as it's like the buttons just barely struggling to hold together the blouses of those young women.
So Destiny Child, not to be confused with Destiny's Child, which is a popular girl band, I believe, back from the 90s or 2000s. I put in about 15 to 20 hours into it so far, and I still have not put a single penny into the game, which is very weird for a gacha game, because it feels like by the 5 or 6 hour mark is when they try to hit you. But I have not noticed any indication saying, oh, this is the point where I got to do it. I got to start coughing up money, otherwise I'm not going to make any progress. A good example for this is right now I'm using 9 stamina per mission, I guess you would say.
Okay.
And I believe I have a max stamina bar of 50. But as I told you before, Nick, with all the bonuses I've been getting over time, just you did this. I'm like, oh, I guess I did. And then you got this. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they do this hundreds upon hundreds of times. I'm a little bit under 4,000 stamina right now. So I could do a mission, I think, just over 400 times. And I'd still be fine at this point. And it's like, I could play as much as I want to. I can play until I just burn out. I would guess like another 15, 20 hours before I run out of stamina. But by that point, I think I would have done so much in that time. I would still get more stamina to keep playing. I think.
Have you hit a paywall?
I haven't. No, that's the weird part. It's like, okay, they tease you with the whole crystal thing. Crystal's obviously the premium thing. Right. You spend that, you get rerolled 10 childs, which are the name of the characters that will fight on your behalf in this RPG wave-based game. However, every single time, like after like an hour of playing, they'll get like, oh, you did this, you completed this task, and there's like 5 or 6 different task givers that will automatically like count shit for you. And so I have no idea what's going on most of the time. All of a sudden they'll tell me, hey, you won something. Good job. Here's 400 crystal. Here's 500 crystal. Wow, good job. Here's 1,000 crystal. And it's like, what am I do? I guess I spend this? Sure. Yeah. I'll spend it. And they just keep overloading me with all this cool shit. I have no idea why. It's imagine being just a happy, content puppy, and all of a sudden everybody just keeps coming up with you with kibble and treats and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. Should I sit? Should I, shake? Nope. Just give me a treat. Okay, yeah, treat. And they're just overloading me. And at this point, hell, okay, you ready for this big one yesterday?
Ready for it.
I have no idea why. I got a little email note thing, like in a little mail inbox. I averaged between like 5,000 to 6,000 gold, which you can use to upgrade or enhance items and weapons and stuff like that. Just out of the blue, I got a little letter in my inbox in game. It says, "We're sorry for the interruption that we gave you, because I guess last night they had a scheduled maintenance from 1 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning." And obviously I was sitting there playing like, oh, I guess I'll sit for an hour. Oh no.
Right.
They gave me 25 million gold. And so imagine just like somebody coming with a dump truck and just dumps all these fucking pepperoni flavored kibbles just all over me. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this cash. Is it good? I think I should be happy, right? I'm happy. I don't, it's just the embarrassment of riches with this game. And
right.
Like I said, I have not seen a single reason to spend even a penny yet. The only thing that I've hit wall-wise was I was playing so well and good that getting campaign-wise into the next world, that's like, oh, you need to be level 25 to enter this world. I'm level 21. So it means, oh no, with my 4,000 stamina, I'm going to have to do missions and level up my characters to be even stronger. So by the time I hit 25, I'm going to have some OP motherfuckers ready to obliterate any foes in my way. And so technically it's like a pause threshold, which is really weird, but at the same time, it allows me to explore different things, because I would estimate they have about 12 different things I can look at that isn't the campaign for this little fun adventure. You can do a PvP style Devil Rumble. You can do a side campaign, which they just introduced yesterday, called A Promise Between Two. This game has introduced Hatsune Miku. They did a fucking crossover with the Vocaloid Hatsune Miku. I mean, it's like, why? Because we fucking can.
This is the most ambitious crossover event of 2019 so far.
Yeah, it's up there, yeah. And so one of the the childs that you can summon now is fucking either Snow Miku, who I believe is a support attacker, or I think it's attacking healer. Someone, because healers usually either heal and then heal stronger. Hatsune is a bit of a hybrid where they can do different. And I'm not sure what actual Miku, like the Vocaloid looking motherfucker, can actually do, but it's pretty brutal. I would love to have her on my team, brutal. And so it's just so weird and ambitious right now that I can't even help but say this is a great game. The only thing I can really trash talk about it is the story is it's okay. I just like seeing numbers go up, and also the way the main character looks in this game looks god awful, as I believe I said last
we talked about that last week.
The dark version,
the Colgate tooth there.
So my best friend Brandon picked up this game yesterday. He's played a few hours into it today. When it comes to gacha games, getting like a 5-star character in this situation is a 3% chance on a random given roll. And so you can imagine my shock when he told me on a second poll of doing the 10 times character gacha roll, whatever the fuck you want to call it, he got fucking Hatsune Miku. 3% chance. Meanwhile, I've been playing for 15 to 20 hours, and I've seen diddly shit in regards to that direction. So I'm a little salty.
That's RNG at its finest.
At its fucking finest too. There is a campaign where if you do this and you do that, you can automatically get it. But I'm estimating between 10 and 15 hours of gameplay is required to get that far, and that's a hell of a jump. So good on him for getting that. I've gotten enough good RNG that I've been handed everything hand over fist, just absurd amount. It's like I said, embarrassment of riches. It's been a good time. And honestly, if anybody's looking for a game just to waste time on your phone, Destiny Child, I think that's the game.
That's the go-to. Yeah.
If you like the waifu battle simulator, I think this is the next big game to play. Like Fire Emblem Heroes, step aside. We got a new child in town.
All right, well, you heard it here first. What else you been working on?
I beat Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
All right. What's the next game?
I don't know what to tell you. It's done. It's done.
What's your final verdict? How has it changed from the last time we talked about Shadow of the Tomb Raider?
I didn't see as much of the glitchy or wonky gameplay as it did originally that broke the game pretty much. There was a couple of times with moving around, especially on walls and whatnot, where I don't even think the game knows what it wanted at the time. It's like, I want to jump across and grab it. So, I hold left, I press X to jump. It launches me to the right for some reason because the camera was like at the wrong angle or something like that.
Right.
And it took some frustrating times. The final boss fight was a bit weird and almost legendary compared to realistic. But in comparison to the first Tomb Raider game where you're fighting off Queen Himiko, I believe it was, it's not completely out of the way. It was just weird because I beat it, I won a 5-minute credit scene, and then boom, you're done. And it's like, oh, by the way, you can go back and do anything you want, but that section is now locked out for good. So enjoy the game. And it's like, I won't touch it. I'm good.
Oh, I know the publisher Enix, but who are the devs for?
Crystal Dynamics.
Crystal Dynamics. Honestly, I'm curious as to what happened that dropped the quality of the game so much.
I mean, it feels like the first game obviously would have been the Big Bang that got everybody's interest. And it just feels like it was a good, solid game that would have been just fine on itself. It wasn't for the fact that, Square Enix loves money. So
and the second game wasn't like, I feel like the second game, it didn't really do much to improve like mechanics or gameplay wise on its predecessor on the first one, but it just maintained the kind of like story intensity, new areas explored, the tombs and stuff. So I feel like it did okay there, and it still remained like the first game would have been I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like the second game kept it at a solid 7, and then it just tanked with Rise of the Tomb Raider.
I totally understand, man. I think they wanted to modernize it in a way that people felt like it was keeping up with itself with a progressive age versus the ye old Tomb Raider with pyramid boobies and all that stuff, which they did offer the chance to play as that if you wanted to in this game. That was interesting.
Right.
So if you want to play in 60,
I think that was a pre-order. You got the skin. But no, my question was more aimed at like what happened with the development process that caused it to be so janky. Story was not as good. That's just what I'm curious about. I'm just curious as to what happened internally between either the publishers or within the dev teams for all of that to happen, because they did just fine on the first 2 games.
That is true. Tomb Raider, the one that we're talking about, the first one, came out on March 5th, 2013. The second time Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider in this case came out, it was November 10th, 2015. So they had 2 years. A little bit over 2.5 years to develop on this game. At the same time, they had 2 other games that they were putting out alongside this over the next couple of years, which includes Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, not the Curse of Osiris, be mistaken or anything like that. And then Lara Croft Relic Run, which is an endless runner for the Windows Phone of all things, as well as the iOS and Android later on. So I'm not sure what games they had to focus on between Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But I
feel like I would have focused on Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But in this case, from Tomb Raider to Rise of the Tomb Raider, they during these 2.5 years, which is a good short time to develop a full-on game like this, they had to focus on 2 other games at the same time. Now, this isn't a big company that works under Square Enix. So doing that again, having another 2.5 years while probably having to outsource a lot of the work here, or outsourcing themselves even for work under Square Enix, it just feels like they didn't have enough time to really put stuff together as much as they wanted to. Now they did. I would say they got a good 85% of the experience there, but the last 15% that would give it the authentic Tomb Raider game that we'd know and love, it just didn't get there. It was probably locked away in some kind of DLC tomb or something like that we just didn't get the chance to see. But that's just a personal opinion on that.
No.
I'm not sure.
It sounds like a publisher setting unrealistic expectations from a developer and then fucking it over again.
Is that allowed?
It's never happened. That's never happened.
Impossible, bro.
That being said, there is another game on your list.
Yes. So humor me this. After playing and beating yet another game on my Nintendo Switch, I realized that I kind of had an aching for another game, an old friend. I've talked about it a little bit.
What game are we talking about?
So I didn't realize this until I opened it up, but It has been over a year since I touched The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, hell, I could play up to 3 or so hours per day, in the truck if I really wanted to. That's not much in the way of things with Breath of the Wild, but I could totally start over. And so I made a new account on my Switch because, like, hell, if I was going to delete all my progress the second time,
no, you don't want to do that.
It's like it was either I increase the clock that shows how many hours I put into Breath of the Wild so far just to impress somebody, which there's nobody out there. I'm sorry.
No.
Or I can, make a guest account and just play on that. And so I tried playing, and then I realized that the road was so bumpy, and I wanted to put headphones in, but I couldn't at the time because I needed to listen to the person that was driving, that I could not get the full-on experience that I really, really would want out of Breath of the Wild. Like, to play it without audio or anything like that would be doing 100% injustice. There we go, that term. And so, just for funsies, I tried. I was like, do I even remember how to play? So I hop into my main game, drove around on a motorcycle for about 10-15 minutes, killed the Lionel, and was like, okay, I want to put this in my TV. I really want to play it. And so I only played, I would say, about 20 to 30 minutes at the most, but it's something to, get the old flame back going. It's like Breath of the Wild. It's still a game, and still a great game. I miss it. What about you, Nick? I've been rambling on for a good long minute over here. What have you been playing, my friend?
Not much. I want to say that I've maybe put about 6 hours into gaming since we last recorded.
Oh,
it's been a very slow week. I played a little bit
Nick, we can't have that.
Most of that was Monster Hunter World. I'm slowly going back. I'm not going back into it, but I'm slowly chipping away at the monstrosity that is Monster Hunter World. Monstrosity in the sense of talking about its size. It's just an immense game, and there's so much to do, so many different kind of play styles, and I'm truly enjoying the grind for optimizing builds and defeating monsters and learning how the weapon systems.
Somebody's going up.
Yeah, so I got access to a new area, and there's one section that's filled with the gas that damages you the longer you stay in it. And so now I know that there's a new armor set that's available to me that requires me to go farm these kinds of bugs to build that armor set that nullifies the effects of the gas and just stuff like that. I like that. So I'm like, all right, now time to farm these bugs, pick up some of these shells, forge like this bug armor, and then go and fuck some monsters.
That reminds me a lot of Muspelheim from the new God of War game. There's a section where you wanted to clear a bunch of enemies to get points, and you're in this death-eating fog, or a life-eating fog, that you would have to slowly, try to, and eventually you would collect the tokens from these monsters. You'd be able to build armor to help nullify that. And it's so satisfying once you get that armor and you go into the fog. You're like, touch me now, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Especially when it wasn't given to you, like you've done something to actually earn it.
You had to bust your ass for it. That was a good grind for it.
And then I played a little bit of Destiny 2, obviously. You stopped by my stream earlier this week. Yeah, I know, shocker. But I was just playing with some
Destiny 2, guys.
Never heard of it. But I have been watching something that I think you'd appreciate. I've been watching two streamers do randomized runs of The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past.
Oh man, that's a good one. I've never heard of that one before. Are you new to the randomizer Link to the Past runs?
Very new.
Oh, it's so good, and as I'm sure you're about to get into it.
No, I mean, it was just really fun to see, and I figured when Cam used to talk about randomizers, it made sense in a Pokemon setting because it just literally randomized everything. But here, these seeds randomize the items that you get to progress through the gameplay in a logical order. So so there's no chance of you getting locked out of an area or you can't complete the game because you can't get the item. And honestly, to me, that was pretty interesting.
It's interesting for me because as a person who's played Link to the Past enough that I feel comfortable playing it and knowing what to do normally, it's also a completely different level when somebody's able to play it so comfortably that they know where every single chest is. And when it comes to the randomizer, you got to hunt for every single chest in the overworld and all that stuff. So it just leads to this completely wild, if you can't find where the fire rod is because it's in a blown hole in the wall somewhere in this section of the world, you're completely screwed.
Yep.
And so having that level of knowledge that you need to know to play the randomizer for Link to the Past, it's beyond me, man. It is mind-boggling, and I love it, watching people do it like magically at this point. That
being said, now, and I feel like there's a little bit of a sore spot between the two of us when it comes to like Zelda of any kind. I still haven't picked up Breath of the Wild again to play it, and I feel like a part of that is why you picked up Breath of the Wild this week. And you're like, you know what? Fuck Nick, I'm gonna play Breath of the Wild and enjoy it on my own.
I mean, there might be a tinge of that. I mean, as I described in the pre-show about, my weather versus your weather kind of thing, I get a little bitterness, whether it's by your attention or not. Yeah, I felt like, well, maybe I shouldn't recommend Breath of the Wild Game of the Year for 2017 to Nick. Maybe I should try it for myself just to remind myself, maybe it wasn't that great of a game. And then I played, 20 minutes and I realized, the fuck you doing, Nick?
I want to play A Link to the Past.
Oh, now you want to play fucking Link to the Past? You want to play?
Listen, I didn't fucking grow up on these games, so let me explore these games at my own pace. And I really want to play A Link to the Past. It looks just like even a normal run. It really looks good and looks really expansive for a game from 1991.
It was for sure, with its color palette, one of the most colorful games for the.
It looks beautiful. Music is fantastic, but also just how to the kind of depth that you can go to, like finding the items, exploring, powering up, exploring the dungeons. It's something else, dude. I honestly, I was amazed watching people these two streamers play through it. It was fantastic. But yeah, no,
I do want to bring up something from coming over on my end of the chat box here. Brandon, my best friend, would like to point out that there is in fact a Link to the Past and Super Metroid randomizer. I'm sure you remember talking about this before. Where you would play both Link to the Past and Super Metroid to find randomized items for each separate of the game. So if you wanted the boomerang, you could potentially have to go over to the Super Metroid game and find it over on Samus's end. It would get sent over to Link to the Past, and Link to the Past would find the items. So it is crazy.
So these streamers, they're using a extension that controls, that allows chat to control the randomizer. Or like what happens within the game. And so I didn't actually catch those runs, but basically chat could either make or break the game for you. And it was two streamers, Professor Broman and King Italian, that were going up against each other. They were just, it was a randomizer race, like a randomizer run of Link to the Past, and it was a race between the two of them. And King Italian won because he is a huge Zelda fan himself. But no, it's fun. I truly enjoy watching it go through, and it has a simplicity that is it's a very strange combination of simplistic elements to the gameplay, but enough depth where that a lot of games are lacking currently.
Yes, and I agree. And when it comes to Link to the Past, as everybody and their mother should know, it's my favorite game of all time. So I can't, if you say that you want to play, it's like, it brings a happy tear to my heart. I mean, I got the freaking tattoo of when he first gets to Master Sword in the game. It's beautiful. So if you wanted to hypothetically play this, what would your options be of obtaining it?
I feel like an emulator.
Okay. I do believe it might have come out for the 3DS. I could be mistaken on that. But if you were to say want to stream something like that, unfortunately, emulation.
I'd have to,
yeah. Oh man, I would love to watch you play Link to the Past. I feel like that would be 100% the game. If you were to start it right after the podcast, I would cancel everything and just start watching you play it. Like, it's a good game.
Get some popcorn, get some drinks.
A lot of people, when they stream it on Twitch and all that stuff, they're popular speedrunners, so they just want to burn right through it. I just want to watch somebody play a nice
explore the game.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the first time, just imagine that frustration. You don't know what's going to happen in the next room. But meanwhile, there's a bunch of veterans that are like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to explore. He's going to be like me when it's 1993. Or me, like 1998, because it came out when I was a year old, I believe. I think I was 8 months old when Link to the Past came out. It's such a good-ass game.
But yeah, that's game so far. I should play. There's a lot I have to play. So we're gonna go into the a little bit of news heavy this week, mainly because there's a lot of shit that's happened that we just can't ignore. I think we have to talk about them.
A lot of things have come to our attention that, as Nick says, we can't just leave it to the wayside, topical or not.
No. So starting off, we're gonna go in order of lightest to heaviest, or least fucked up to most fucked up, because
oh boy, I don't even know which way this goes at this point. Go ahead, Nick, take it away. Which one are we looking at?
We're gonna start with the Machinima article. Are you
okay?
Were you ever a big Machinima fan?
There was a lot of videos that were made by the various creators that were for Machinima that I would really enjoy watching. You know, usually skits or just popular information that would come in on it. But overall, it's like I didn't live or die by it. I was more of a Rooster Teeth kind of guy, but that's perfectly fine. Machinima has been there since the beginning. It's kind of like the grandfather of video game, entertainment of sorts.
Were they the ones responsible for, or at least sponsoring, the studio that made Red versus Blue?
Rooster Teeth is the company that's in charge of that. I'm not sure if Rooster Teeth has any connections with Machinima, but there's a good possibility.
So, just reading through this article, just so everybody's clear, this is an article that comes from The Verge, written by Julia Alexander. Machinima went dark as of very recently, as of maybe like a day ago. Just all the episodes, everything was deleted because they were bought out by a different company. They were bought out by a company called Fullscreen Media. And we're not really sure what's going on, because a lot of the people who were working under Machinima were basically let go without any warning, and a lot of people have not been paid.
A lot of people have gone into the dark in regards to this. One of the people that is one of the creators for Machinima reported having to contact several different venues to see whether or not they lost their position or their paycheck, way of life with Machinima. After it's been transferred over to Fullscreen. And one of the reporters or the people that they contacted said, no, you're still working for Machinima, just wait a minute as everything gets transferred over to Fullscreen. And Fullscreen's like, hey guys, we don't have anything to say, but the next few months are going to be awesome. And it's like, okay, what about your technical employees at this point? It feels like you're missing a lot of information that should have gone to everybody very well in advance. Like, maybe there might not be employees, but at the very least they're considered contractors. So what the hell happened here? It sounds like people wanted money to exchange hands as quickly as possible before they realized that there might be some value loss over the situation, and the value being human people that are trying to make a lifestyle out of this.
It's based on the article. From what I understand, with the way YouTube does its monetization, or at least what's happening in this case, because all of these different creators, or as Tyler put it, contractors, were under Machinima, it was easier, and Machinima's been doing this for forever. They already had a contract or deal of sorts with YouTube, so everything was already pretty much monetized. So it was a simple thing of just giving payouts to the people who were making videos for them. But now that a lot of these people might have to, or already have, gone solo, making their own YouTube channels, it takes a while for the monetization to kick up again. And for people who depend on this kind of income, it's completely disrupted their lives, because monetization can take anywhere from a couple of hours, depending on how much pull you have, to a couple of weeks. And so, yeah, 2019 starting off with some real scummy practices.
Very, very shady at the very least. There is no mention as to how much the sale of Machinima to Fullscreen got whoever actually owned it originally, which I'm not sure if it even says here who owned Machinima at this point, because no.
It does at some point, I believe, or I could have been wrong when I was reading through it. But I mean, at this point, does it really matter?
No, I just want to name that person as a scumbag right now, but that's just a
person. Oh, okay. No. They list a company, but they didn't list a particular name.
Yeah, so somebody at Machinima forgot to contact the dozens to hundreds of people that like to create for this company for a buck, and just kind of swept the rug right under them. Fantastic, good job.
Yeah, and to add in a comment from my end of the chat, one of my really good friends, also Brandon, says, "Sounds like life." which is a sad reality for a lot of people in a lot of different situations.
If that is life to where you can't do your job without any kind of job security, the idea of thinking that you are doing perfectly fine and then just being told you have nothing with us anymore, like just over something that isn't their own fault.
Yeah, it's really shitty.
It was good enough that the person in charge of it wanted to make even more money by giving up responsibility, and just kind of, it was a big failure of communication all around. So I'm sorry for the creators for Mashimana. I hope you find a good solo background, and you're always welcome to reach out.
Now continuing the trend of shady / scummy. Do you know who else has been up to some shit, Tyler?
I mean, is it in your top 5 least favorite publishers?
Do you want to guess who's number 1 on that position? Always, perpetually.
Let's see. I believe we said Ubisoft was number 5. Sure. Number 4 was Bethesda. No, I think it might have been Square Enix. And number 3 was Bethesda. Number 2 was guessing Activision. But then that leaves number 1.
Who could it possibly be?
Who could it be? The scumbag publisher mystery. Does it start with an E and end with A?
No, well, technically yes, but also no. It starts with an E and ends with an S. If you really think about it. If you really think about it.
Oh, if you really tap your head meme-like enough.
Electronic Arts has been up to some shit again. I also want to say, in regards to my distaste for Ubisoft, I've talked with a few people, with a few friends, and I want to retract a majority of the bad things I've said about Ubisoft. Ubisoft sticks out like a sore thumb in my mind, but I have to commend anybody. And they stick out like a sore thumb in my mind purely because of the kind of shit that they did with Assassin's Creed before Assassin's Creed Origins, where they're like, "Oh shit, dudes, this is a moneymaker. We're just gonna pump out games, screw the quality. You know, we don't care about the script or where the story is going. Nobody really knows anymore. Let's have all these buggy games out there. Doesn't matter. People are gonna pay us anyways." So the Assassin's Creed line is always gonna franchise is always gonna stick out, but to see in this day and age, to see a publisher / developers stick with games that didn't do so great, figure out how to make them better, and then push through is commendable. They did that with Rainbow Six Siege, For Honor, and The Division.
If there's one thing I want to give credit to Ubisoft for, and I didn't want to kind of say this to you because it sounded like you had a hot take of your own, I really do like Ubisoft as a big publisher. Now, granted, they don't always make the best decisions, but in terms of the big 5 we just listed there, they, to me, feel like the most emotionally connected to the player base, which sounds weird, I admit it. But if you can imagine situations like where they all step on stage during an E3 and they bow down saying, "Please take care of us as we'll try to take care of you because we're trying to fight off a takeover by Vivendi," they're reaching out to people emotionally. You can also remember the time a couple of years ago where Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle came out, where they announced Ubisoft working with Nintendo to make a Mario-based, XCOM style game. Mm-hmm. And the tears going down I believe it was the community manager's face, being so happy that everybody had cheered him on. Because when people heard about Ubisoft teaming up with Nintendo like this, they got booed hard. They were scared. And the moment they, showed this trailer and all that, people lost their minds. They turned around on it 100%, and they're like, "Holy crap! Ubisoft made a good Rabbids game that people could enjoy." Because let's be real, Rabbids is like the de facto evil, horrifying version of what the fuck is called Minions.
Yep.
And those things are bad enough. So it's like they have Rabbids in it too, but they somehow turned it around. They made it a thing, and it was comical and enjoyable. So I do feel like Ubisoft has a lot of good points amongst the bad ones, where it just feels like they keep stacking up for other publishers.
Agreed. So, everybody makes mistakes, and so I'd like to rescind my statements about Ubisoft that I've mentioned on prior episodes, and they're no longer on my scummy / shitty developers publishers list.
Oh man, who goes up the number 5 then?
No, it's only gonna be 4 now. We're just because fuck all the other ones. So coming back to EA, Um, I've been another side note. I've been looking at a lot of journalism, video game journalism. Not a lot, but I've been going through a little bit more than I used to.
Journalism entrepreneur.
Um, Jason Schreier from
Yeah,
Kotaku. I respect like the work that he does is commendable. He's constantly fighting to get information out, and every article that he's or at least in the last few months, the articles that he's written have been very much unbiased and journalism as journalism is.
I would like to counter that with some of his tweeting mechanisms around that, because there's been a couple of times where he'll give the straight facts, but just at the right opportune moment in an article or in the tweet, he'll give, you know, either a question or a thought that where people are like, I got all this information, I have emotion, I don't know if I should be positive or negative, and he'll go negative. And all of a sudden everybody just tear shit down just because of that tiny little push. The big example was Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. He did talked about how it was a good game, and he was like, it's such a good, strong game, but gotta unlock all the characters. And all of a sudden everybody just tore walls down against Nintendo and then towards him, and he's like, sorry, I shouldn't have made fun of this. And he just got such kickback from that kind of stuff. But when it comes to giving the cold hard facts over on Kotaku side, yes, Jason Schreier has been just going at it. A huge props.
So this is in regards to EA canceling their open world Star Wars game. So the game was in development by EA Vancouver, and the reason for the game's cancellation was that they're like, it's just too far out to when we see. I'm very much paraphrasing, summarizing this article, but they're like, it's too far out, and we want to be able to make more games in between. To me, that sounds like we don't care about the player base, we just want more money, so we're gonna make more games rather than put out a really good game that'll cost us a year of income. Funny thing about that is, for them, their sole reason being like, all right, we want to make more games, is I'm just pulling up the visual here. Star Wars games over a 6-year period. Under LucasArts and collaboration with other companies between 2002 and 2008, there were 18 Star Wars games. Between 2013 and 2019 under EA, there were 2 Star Wars games, Battlefront and Battlefront 2.
Yikes. Okay.
And the latter of which, as we know, was one hell of a shit show, not because it was a bad game, but because of all the microtransaction pushed hard by EA. But Tyler, what if I told you, despite all this news, I don't think you're the biggest Star Wars fan, neither am I, but it just sucks to see a franchise carrying such cultural weight like this being treated like shit, regardless of whether you're a big fan or not. But what if I told you that there were no loss of jobs when they canceled this?
This is probably one of the most respectable things that came out of this little highlight saying, we're not here to cut jobs or anything like that. We just want to refocus to have money come in sooner. And it's like, well, they weren't super scummy about it. They're just, they changed the whole story, but they're not cutting out any of the authors. That's good, I guess. We just have a lot of people.
I guess it's just that what this sounds like to me is that we have billions and billions of dollars. We have all this capital, and we want more. So I don't really care about the players. I just want to make more games to get more money, regardless of what the quality is like, and I want to push more at microtransactions instead of let's think about the consumer in the long run, because that's going to be more beneficial to us as a company, and also our image as a already rocky image, really shaky image as a company. Why don't we think about the consumer, put out this really nice open world Star Wars game that we promised and we know that they're going to enjoy, and let's do that because we have all this capital that's going to last us till then.
Okay. Just for the record, I want to clarify some numbers. EA right now, as of 2018, I know it's 2019, but it's been a month, has a net value with revenue rolling around everywhere of $5.15 billion, which is quite a bit. Not way up there as much people would think. You'd think that they would be up in the 10s and 20s, but they are fairly up there. At the same time, the moment I saw this situation, the whole article, it was, I'm not even sure if this is a word, incendious. It was incendiary to me, because if you think about this story trails all the way at the beginning to one of my favorite companies getting shut down, Visceral Games, which I'm sure you know, Visceral Games is in charge of Dead Space. So you can imagine back in the day when I was told that Dead Space 4 was not going to happen because they were focused on the Star Wars. I'm like, fine, maybe after the Star Wars game. Then the company gets shut down completely. That hurts my soul right there because I don't know what that even means at that point. And then it gets over to Vancouver. Vancouver, has been trying to work hard on it, but then that's gotten, screwed over just now. And so I this might be self-serving, but I'm already salty that the fact that we lost Visceral Games over this kind of game that never end up happening. So I'm sure there was other various reasons, but just that alone is just, just.
Oh no, but what if I also tell you that Respawn Entertainment that was bought up by EA a little while ago that made Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2, where Titanfall 2 was pushed to release earlier than they should have. Not that it was an incomplete game, but it and this is highly speculation, mind you, and before we get lost, where it was released alongside Battlefield 1 in order to tank its sales so that they'd lose stock so that EA could buy them. And now they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, and EA is like, listen, I know you're working on Titanfall 3, but we're going to make you work on this other Star Wars game right now so that we can get them out by the end of the year. And to me, this sounds just like a rushed development process of a publisher that wants more money.
It's suspicious as all fuck, and it's really grimy. Just, the way we're painting the picture, it's gonna naturally sound grimy, but just like the more you think about it, the more it's like, okay, cool. We're big company wants bigger money. It's like, man shouts at cloud and sky. It's like, okay, cool. That's all I'm getting out of this. I'm like, the flicker in my eyes, the life in them is starting to go gray at this point. It's like, whatever. I don't even care anymore, Nick. It's EA.
Yeah, 100%. I am very much biased, but my bias comes from the facts. And so anything that I report or at least talk about, for the most part, I hope, unless I make a mistake and then I'll make a retraction. But I haven't made a mistake yet, or at least not long term. Knock on wood. I'm losing track of this, but I will say this: I predict that Titanfall 3 will not happen, and I predict that something's going to happen to Respawn that we're not going to like by the end of the year.
I can see that.
I feel like that's a fair prediction.
I agree. I don't think Titanfall 3 is going to happen.
Which breaks my heart because Titanfall 2 was fucking fantastic. I love that game.
I also think that Star Wars Battlefront 3 is going to get... It's going to get scrapped, and not to like completely gone, but it's going to get like bare bones stuff, like bare minimum. It's like, we're not going to give you any of the fancy like campaign or story missions or anything like that. You're going to get exactly what you'd expect in your online thing. Almost a la, was it Call of Duty that just came out? I'm trying to remember if it was Call of Duty or Battlefield that just completely scrapped out the single player campaign, just 100%.
That was Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Okay, I feel like they're going to do something like that, just even further. Just make it bare bones. We're going to give you 5 different play styles, and one of them's going to drop 100 stormtroopers from the sky, and that's pretty much going to be it. Also, I'm surprised that you didn't put Epic into the... Epic... Is Epic really grimy? So I guess they wouldn't earn that number 5 place in terms of scumbag.
No, Epic, I've not seen them do anything shady. I just question their choices when it comes to balancing their game. But beyond that, like, they have their Epic Store, which gives back more to the developers, which I think is a good thing, especially for indie developers who already get shafted by Steam taking about 20, 25, I can't remember the exact number, but a large chunk of their earnings when they do so much work in comparison to a lot of the AAA titles that have, at least 100 people working on this stuff.
It's almost like we're begrudgingly recognizing that they're doing good things.
I mean, no, I've never had any problems with Epic. They put out one of my favorite franchises ever, Gears of War, and Fortnite. I feel like I treat it as its own identity. Marketing team is fantastic. They did a good job at some aspects of the game. It's just I don't like the game, but there's nothing scummy about Epic. I've not felt anything shady. Epic doing anything shady.
Fair enough.
One more point I did want to make in regards to EA. The Disney the Star Wars contract lasts till about, I believe the number that I saw somewhere, the year that I saw was 2023, and so I feel like it's a waiting game for Star Wars fans now, especially the ones who loved I think it was Knights of the Old Republic. That's one of the most revered Star Wars game.
Yes.
And so it's really just a waiting game now, so that Disney or whoever owns the rights of the video games gets full control back. Because let's assume it is Disney. The amount of money these games are likely bringing in, Disney is not going to be too upset about what's happening. I feel like, because Disney is known to change copyright laws that suit them when they feel like it.
That is true. And Disney, maybe not quite like the level of video game companies, also like money. So they're probably getting so much money in different directions, especially with the Star Wars license, that they're willing to let a couple of things slide as long as it suits them in the long run. So I could totally see that happening.
So moving on from EA, we have our last news article, and this one's a bit of a rough one. Tyler, do you want to lead us off into it?
It's interesting. The company Gearbox, the lawyer, now ex-lawyer, Wade Callender, the CEO, Randy Pitchford. I'm going to give you 3 words to remember, folks. Callender, aka the very vengeful lawyer. You got Pitchford, the corrupt CEO of the company. And then, of course, the company known as Gearbox. Now, Gearbox has been working on a lot of games. The most notable one recently, I believe, was Borderlands 3. Is that right?
Oh, no, we don't know if Borderlands 3 is even happening. Nobody's confirmed anything, but they definitely ported it to something else recently.
Oh,
yeah. No. In all, like, I know my voice sounded a little sarcastic there. They haven't confirmed anything but Borderlands 3. We're all hoping that they are working on Borderlands 3, but we don't know what's going to happen now after all of this.
So previously, and we didn't talk about this personally, Gearbox had slapped the lawyer Callender with a $300,000 lawsuit. Apparently, the company lent him a bunch of money. He was not paying it back. There's a bunch of other things that he was kind of doing that seemed kind of shady. And so he got hit with that. In this article, the lawyer is now sending back a $12 million shout out saying, hey, you screwed up and you took money that did not belong to you. And he's filing a lawsuit. It's not saying specifically for how much, but the main concern is over a $12 million bonus that came from I'm trying to remember, I think it was Take-Two specifically, but instead of going to the company Gearbox, they actually went to the CEO Pitchford, who decided to pocket it all for himself and his wife. And
I believe what you're talking about is it's known as there's a word for it. I believe it's called embezzlement.
Yes. Other people call it an executive bonus, but call it whatever you want. So the lawyer that was in charge of Gearbox at the time was mighty pissed because $12 million that didn't go to any of the developers or himself or anybody at Thousand staff beyond the CEO. And, to some extent, it almost sounds rightfully so. If Take-Two is giving the company a bunch of money, the CEO should obviously get a good cut of it. But, even American CEO gets I think 60 to 80% of the wages and the rest gets trickled down to the employees. They did not see a penny. Maybe a couple of pat in the backs and good jobs and all that stuff. And it continues a little bit worse. Mr. Callender, the lawyer here, wants to throw salt to the wound and fuel to the fire. He goes on a little bit further beyond this secret $12 million bonus deal.
This is where it gets a little heavy.
This is where things get kind of fishy because it sounds like he's just throwing shade like a motherfucker. We don't even know if this is real shade. So mind you, people who are listening to this, the accusations by the lawyer may be even unfounded. It might just be a very angry lawyer that wanted part of the $12 million pie. Or it could be 100% true. We don't know. Absolutely. The fact of the matter is there was a USB drive. Just a little, cute little USB drive. What was on it, Nick?
There were quite a few things on it. There were a lot of corporate documents in relation to Gearbox. It's a lot of sensitive things, corporate-wise for Gearbox. A lot of their deals with, I believe it says here, 2K, Sega, Sony, Microsoft, and others. But there was something else. There was a lot of personal documents also of
it might be company documents.
I would fucking hope not. I would fucking hope that it's not company documents. They were personal collections of underage pornography. This is coming to us from an article by MCV written by Vicky Blake. Tyler.
Okay, so Pitchford, aka CEO Randy Pitchford, apparently had lost a USB stick that had a shit ton of sensitive information. as well as underage pornography. Now, later in this article, there was a clarification that kind of puts it into more gray ground, where it's like the pornography was like just turned 18, which is illegal in most U.S. states and whatnot. So calling it underage pornography versus just barely legal, I mean, that is a fine line that will, put you off the sex offender list. So
right.
They worded this, especially by the lawyer, it just sounds purely malicious, honestly.
We'll go into the ethical and moral discussion in a little bit, but yeah, no, I agree. Like, it had just been, the way he phrased it was just to like literally light a fire and just fucking throw him under the bus even further.
Some $12 million, and also the CEO had a just turned 18 Daisy Does Dallas video on this little fork USB drive, alongside every single company file that you could think of that every other company should not have a look at, alongside secret information of multiple other companies on this little thumb drive that got picked up by a kid. Some kid from, I guess, the medieval times, which I'm guessing is like a newspaper company. I don't even know at this point. But apparently
here's my question. Like, let's make the assumption that, sure, this the girl in question was 18, so she was of legal age. Let's assume that. So let's assume that he downloaded this, or he paid for it. He obtained this in some legal way. Let's make that assumption.
You think he could have pirated it, because this could go in a completely different direction.
Let's assume that he obtained it in a legal way. Why the fuck do you have pornography mixed in with sensitive company documents?
Are you asking me personally or professionally? Because I have different responses to this.
Oh, okay. I want to know. Okay, please detail your different responses.
Okay, so if I got a bunch of sensitive information that can stress a guy out, and you can't share it to the world or the internet or anything, you got it on a closed circuit laptop. You can't put anything on the laptop, and so you're looking at these numbers, trying to figure out what's going on here, and it's like, I do have that one video I have of Daisy Does Dallas where she just turned 18. Oh, let me stress out before I start looking at the numbers with EA over here or something like that. And boom, right there. Now, professionally, I have no fucking idea. They're idiots.
Like, just carry a second flash drive. Like, how hard is that?
Third theory here. The fucking kid that took the flash drive put it on there as an LOL joke, and then when they recovered it, they saw it, and like, the lawyer was like, "Oh, this was totally CEO."
Ooh, get your tinfoil hats out, folks.
I know. Oh, come on! I'm strictly aluminum. Thank you very much.
But that's an interesting theory too. That could very much be the case, because everything that we know so far is very much speculation in regards to the pornography accusations. But as far as we do know, I believe the 12 million has been confirmed.
Yes. Everything else in regards to stuff going missing, the pornography and all that stuff, naturally, Gearbox's current lawyers or whoever is saying, "You're full of shit, evil lawyer person that owes us 300,000. You're just trying to throw us our name through the mud and all that stuff. You leave Pitchford alone." And honestly, it just sounds like somebody wanted their cake and they made sure they eat the shit out of it.
Well, all I can say is that I hope that doesn't affect Gearbox as a company too much, because there's so many people out there who are very much excited for Borderlands 3, and I would hate to see people's dreams get ruined because of some CEO's questionable life choices.
I totally understand. At the very end, I would like to say that Pitchford did, the CEO, responded to the accusations personally. And of course, what is the most personal way of reaching out to everybody than by, posting it on Twitter?
Obviously, we all know Twitter is the go-to forum for posting personal messages, because the President of the United States uses Twitter.
I mean, that is their main medium at this point. Who needs Slack? Tweet to everybody. Pitchford did say via Twitter, "The attacks made my former friend and colleague, or that my former friend and colleague has no basis in reality or law. He's simply trying to shake me down for money. We will win, but because lawsuits are pending, I can't comment as much as I'd like. I am shocked by his lies. Thank for your love and support." He further continues and says, As a father, I find crimes against children to be especially repugnant. Now, again, I'd like to point out that illegality here, whatever. It is very painful that a former friend and colleague would lie to try to associate me with such vile behavior in his own greedy pursuit of money. As the day progresses, I am discovering who my friends are. Thank you for your love and support. I am just going to try to focus on my work and trust that truth and justice will prevail with the courts. And so it sounds like Pitchford has no fucking idea what happened there, what he's talking about, why somebody, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing enough that he lost a USB drive full of that kind of information. It might even be outdated. We have no idea. But to supposedly have Daisy Does Dallas, you know, sorry, I'm making up cities and names at this point.
But no, like, you know, innocent until proven guilty. I'm very much a believer of that. But also, these kinds of accusations are enough to harm Gearbox's stock and possibly put a damper on development. And I hope that doesn't happen. At the end of the day, I hope nobody has to lose jobs over one CEO slip-ups if he does turn out to be proven guilty of whatever these accusations are. If he, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. We just needed to talk about it.
I do have one final question in regards to this article. All right. If this does go to the courts, do you think Gearbox subpoenas Daisy from Daisy Does Dallas to confirm whether or not she was 18 at the time of the filming?
I believe if it actually goes to court and if the lawyers work hard enough and they find any plausible evidence that he's actually guilty, I feel like Gearbox would abandon him to save their own face, so it wouldn't matter at that point.
Oh man, that's vicious. But okay, fair enough. Daisy from Dallas, or whatever your real name, or from question. I don't know how you'd know if you were on that USB drive or not. But please come forward. Tell us the truth. We need to understand.
Yes, we're very appreciative of any kind of exclusives that we get here. So, you know, reach out to us. You can find us at casualmasterquest@gmail.com or on our Twitter at masterquestpod. Early shoutouts. All right, so we're gonna move on, lighten things up a little bit. Topic of the show today, and I wrote this little ditty here. Not a little ditty, but a little line here. Everyone was so concerned as to whether or not a ditty is like a little jingle. But then I realized it's not like a jingle. It's you know, it's just a line. We're so concerned as to whether we can or cannot. Nobody stopped to ask if we could. We're going to talk about some questionable choices of video game franchises being turned into movies, and some that we'd be excited for.
After the infamous Super Mario Brothers movie that both, you know, I'd like to say I got introduced to that by my best friend Brandon. And man, what a time to be alive to have a movie like that coming into existence. And there's been a lot of questionable choices where, like, have people actually, you know, played the games to understand what the story of the movie should be about? Like, for example,
never. I can guarantee you that a lot of the directors and writers for these movies have no idea what the fuck they're doing because they've not played a lot of these things.
Admittedly, I don't remember what the name of the director for the Resident Evil movie franchise is. He pretty much like looked at the very beginning, got, you know, 5 keywords: Resident Evil, Umbrella, and the, you know, zombies. And,
right. Now let's just slap on a hot woman on top of it, and then we'll make everything better.
And bless Milla for, you know, hopping back, you know, make an appearance later. And after that, even the director admitted he had no idea what the story of it was supposed to be out, and so he just went to make his own storyline, and it's just hilarious that it went that way. Paul Anderson is his name. Paul Anderson, who actually his wife is now Milla. Is it Jovovich? Yeah. They are now married. I think they were just together, kind of, sort of, like in the beginning of the Resident Evil, but by the end, they like, you know, hooked up. So good on them.
So before we get started here, a comment from my end: Warcraft movie could have been better. So I'm not a Warcraft person whatsoever, but I did thoroughly enjoy. Like, I was entertained start to finish throughout that movie. So I'm curious as to your take. I'm curious as to your take on whether that could have been better, or it was like, what was your take on that movie?
When it comes to the Warcraft movie, my main concern is when people think of World of Warcraft, they think of the later expansions. They don't think of the very original vanilla. At least the people I talked with. I mean, this was a movie that was catered out to the super, way back when crowd, and I think they picked a timeline that they could have chosen better. I mean, it's a good point in the movie. It delivers a good plot, but they could have just as easily focused on, for example, the story of Arthas and Wrath of the Lich King and all that stuff. That to me would have been a lot more interesting of a movie. Or even Cataclysm. Cataclysm was kind of weird, but that would have worked too. Or Mist of Pandaria, the focus on Pandaria, traveling and facing off against the conflict between the Horde and the Alliance, which was much more prevalent and developed at that time.
Now, this is coming from somebody who's extensively played World of Warcraft and been a big part of the Warcraft franchise. How does the story that they put out of the movie fit for somebody who's got no experience or whatever, no knowledge? Was that are these other storylines easier to digest, or are they a lot more complicated, or was this good enough for a beginner?
Well, if you've, for example, played next to nothing of World of Warcraft and you went to saw this movie, first, as a person who's spent, I would say, well over 100 hours into the lore of World of Warcraft. Like I looked into a lot of shit. Like I wanted to understand everything. Since you have to accept that they picked this point in the story and chose to narrate it, I would say that they did a fantastic job. A lot of people are like, "Oh, who's this person? Oh, who's this person?" Like a lot of people didn't understand the importance of Gul'dan, the warlock-looking orc motherfucker. They see spikes coming out of his back. He has evil-looking eyes. Hey, he's evil. That's all you need to know. He's plotting. He's devious. And also with Medivh. Medivh, in the beginning, he looks all good. He's all friendly. But by the end of the movie, he becomes possessed by the spirit of Sargeras, and he turns, evil of sorts. And so you have that huge fight in Medivh's tower there. And it's like, oh, he's doing weird things. He must be evil now. And it's like, okay, that's all you need to know. But then there's certain conflict and points where people are trying to understand what side of the story should I, respect and enjoy. But I feel like they explain it in such a way that they didn't want to burden everything with like details like a son of a bitch. They kept it simple in such a way that everybody could have enjoyed it. And the way that they animated everything was so well that honestly, I can't complain against it. I watched.
Because it is a movie. You have a limited amount of time to convey a certain amount of information, so I can understand them needing to skip out on certain plot points or certain, background building information. Which is why, like a lot of the Harry Potter movies, are kind of like, well, they missed out a lot of the stuff from the book, but I get it because they have a time constraint. Also, a lot of the Warcraft movie was shot in Vancouver, BC. By the way, FYI. They do a lot of filming here. They do a lot of the Deadpool filming, majority of it here.
Nice. Nice.
So we're just going to move through this list a little bit, see which ones that stick out to us. Obviously, they list Detective Pikachu that's coming out later this year. Angry Birds 2, the movie is getting a sequel. I have no interest.
Fuck.
Whatsoever. I haven't even seen the first one, so we're just gonna skip that. This one I feel like would be of interest. Sonic the Hedgehog is supposedly getting a movie later this year in November, and there's a little poster here.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna drag this so stream will be able to see it, and I implore anybody who's listening to Google at some point the Sonic the Hedgehog movie poster, because in all honesty, this is a little terrifying.
Are you talking about the movie poster where everybody is kind of, or the Sonic is blacked out a little bit, so it just sees the outfit?
Yeah. It's a little terrifying.
There's actually a worse trailer picture that it shows Sonic hanging over what looks like the Golden Gate Bridge of some sort of, or just a large extensive bridge, and where you just see this long, super long leg and all that stuff, and it's hard being this fast or some bullshit phrase like this. But yeah, it is weird because it honestly looks like a humanoid character with oversized shoes and a large foam head right now. And obviously it's going to be all CGI'd, but yeah, it's going to be weird. It's going to be interesting. We'll see.
It might just lead to a rampant increase in furries for all we know. And Lord knows we don't need any more of them. But
I'm curious to see what Amy looks like now.
I'm
scared. Or Eggman. What's Eggman? Is Eggman gonna
be? I don't even want to find out, if I'm being honest.
He's gonna be like on an IV and stuff like that because he's so morbidly obese in his machine that he can't even leave it. But it turns out he's going to rip his IVs out at the end of the movie, and he's going to have these giant rooster legs because he's been on perma bike status down there, and he's been powering his machine by pure mechanics. And so he's going to be truly faster than Sonic, but he's going to be so top heavy that he's just going to smash it.
So moving on, we've got The Witcher 3. The Witcher is getting a Netflix series later this year with Henry Cavill leading as Geralt of Rivia. Now I'm excited for this. They included a little clip that came out in October of last year, at the end of October, and this was more of a
on Halloween.
On Halloween, yes, and this was more of a screen test to see what Henry Cavill looks like as Geralt. So they missed out a lot of the features like the scars and the colored lenses, and it's really just him with his silver hair and doing a lighting test, and it looks pretty good at this stage. Right now it looks like a mid to high-end cosplay, and given a lot of the other makeup that they're going to end up putting on, I'm confident for this because I believe I really like Henry Cavill. I really enjoyed him in the last Mission Impossible movie, and he did The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I think his role in the DC movies is kind of performances have been underwhelming.
It does have a lot of promise to it, specifically comparing it with Game of Thrones, maybe not one-to-one obviously, but if they were to go to that kind of style, I'm kind of concerned with the amount of episodes they'd be able to do, because just the whole mythical setting like that, it's going to require a lot of explanation and story behind it to get a level of story like The Witcher. The Witcher 3 took hundreds of hours just to complete. So
True.
Trying to complete that into a 12 to 24 live action episode, it's going to be a big undertaking. So
they've decided to go based on the books, and they're going way back. So this is going to be a portrayal of young Geralt. So I'm interested to see. I'm specifically interested to see who the actors are going to be for Yennefer, because
look at you, you flashy and smiley when you say that, Nick. What's going on here?
I'm excited to see who's going to be portraying Yennefer. I don't know if they actually confirmed. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. Moving on, we've got Monster Hunter.
Coming out in 2020, and has a very familiar face of what I was talking about. Let me try to pronounce her name again. Mila Jovovich, I believe.
There you go.
Okay, cool. Apparently, she's gonna dress completely like she did as Alice from Resident Evil and get herself transposed into the new Monster Hunter movie. So that's interesting.
Funnily enough, and I didn't know this per se. Honestly, I didn't know Resident Evil was a Capcom game, and so it kind of makes sense why she's representing. She's in the Monster Hunter movie again, because Monster Hunter is also owned by Capcom, and they're like, well, we already have a relationship with her. We like her, and so they're just gonna throw her back in.
Paul Anderson, we need you. Form us the angstiest teens we can find and put them in our new Capcom movie. That's when you play the Power Rangers.
I'm gonna skip over the Minecraft movie bit because I don't feel like that's anything super newsworthy to talk about. Like, they already did a Minecraft kind of series or interactive episode on Netflix, I believe.
And it's only in speculation. They say that they might have talked or got somebody called Peter Solit, who was in charge of Nick and Nora's Infinite playlist, to potentially take this movie on. But honestly, if you want a good Minecraft movie, just go to the Telltale games.
Pretty much, or just go find some of the bigger Minecraft content creators. I'm sure there's somebody making movies in the system itself. So yeah, look at what happened with Red versus Blue. Sorry,
I said, or just play Minecraft. Just have fun.
Or just play Minecraft. Make your own story. Make your own movie.
Hell yeah.
We've got Doom on the list, as and this is more of a speculation right now, or like more in a project in the works. There was a Doom movie in 2005 starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. What do you think about a new Doom movie?
I don't know what the hell they do at this point. Would it just be your simple run and gun movie where you're just being badass at all times? Because I feel like with how little, and I say story here on quotations, that Doom has, I don't know how you could do it in such a way to keep up interest. I mean, I just don't see it.
That's fair. I feel like you'd have to sit and think about why you're making the movie first. So if we think about movies such as Pacific Rim, The story there is very simple, very much to the point. You've got these big monsters invading. You've got two pilots piloting a big fucking robot. Fight. So it's a simple enough story that it keeps you engaged. What hooks you in though is the action. And so I feel like if they understand that and realize that this is an action movie and make sure that they have a solid, simple story, it doesn't have to be fantastic, but it's a solid story. I feel like that'd be enough. I didn't see the 2005 movie, and I feel like if they were to base the movie off the game that came out in 2016, it would be a lot better.
I mean, right now, Universal Studios, apparently the company that's going to be in charge of this, it's suggesting that Amy Manson is going to be the starring role of Doom Guy. Or
I would like to see that. What if this is the start of a new like Alien series, and we have a new action queen?
Have you seen the movie Venom?
Yes.
Do you remember the one section where the female protagonist gets the
yes the symbiote?
Yes, the Rule 63 Venom for a moment there. Just that kind of like power play being subverted like that would be so interesting that I would love to see it done in different ways. This would be an interesting way of seeing that happen. Instead of having a super male power fantasy, let's give a nice empowered woman to do something like this as just as badass.
No, I think that would be interesting. So I was watching, sidetrack a little bit, I started watching the new season of The Punisher that's on Netflix. And the first episode has Frank Castle fight against a bunch of different assassins, and a couple of them are women, and to see some women get the shit kicked out of them on a completely equal setting because he doesn't give a fuck and he's defending another person was something else. It was refreshing. You know what I mean? Because you'll often see where it's like, oh, I'm getting attacked by a woman, but I'm gonna like knock you out or like restrain you because I don't want to hurt you. He doesn't give a fuck. He goes and stabs one in the chest. It was fantastic.
Nice.
As Batman would say, justice doesn't discriminate.
Does he actually say that?
I do believe he does. He says that at some point in one of the comics.
I'm Batman is another thing he says. So I mean, it just seems like it'd be obvious. Any other ones that you want to give a shout out to?
So going down the list, we've got Call of Duty. It's probably going to be a standard American war movie. We don't need to go into that. Tom Clancy's Division, another presidential, like, post-apocalyptic movie. It's kind of been done before. Sleeping Dogs. This is not a game that I'm familiar with, or at least, do you know anything about this game?
Sleeping Dogs. It was it felt like Infamous to me, except instead of having superpowers, the focus of the game was to wait, I might be getting mixed up with Watch Dogs now. Now I'm heavily concerned. I thought Sleeping Dogs was the game where you would hack different electronics. And
no, that's Watch Dogs. I believe they might have come out at the same year too. So it says here, Sleeping Dogs came out in 2012. Watch Dogs came out in 2014, so around the same time. So it kind of makes sense.
Okay, so then I would say that Sleeping Dogs would probably be something similar to that of Yakuza, just a beat-up game set off in what was it? Somewhere? Oh, in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So
like your standard kind of like martial arts action movie. I would like to see that. I would like to see our generations or a new generation of Jackie Chan, kind of like actors. Because Jackie
you from Yakuza now in a game or a movie like this, that would be interesting to me. I have no idea whether or not Sleeping Dogs would be an interesting movie, but I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Next up, we've got Devil May Cry is getting a Netflix series apparently, but this is not a live action adaptation.
Oh boy, do I see this right? Executive producer Ari Shankar, the guy who worked on fucking Castlevania.
This is a 2D adaptation of Devil May Cry, so I think this is probably the one with the most promise on our list.
Nice. Hell yeah, Capcom has been doing some fucking work. Look at them. Oh, yeah, I mean, the Castlevania on the Netflix series was just like top of the game, like wonderfully good. And so this
is an article from Business Insider, and at the bottom of this section it says Shankar has hinted that the two series could cross over in some way, and in this case he's referring to Castlevania and Devil May Cry.
It is throwing me off because Capcom and Devil May Cry is a completely different, field of video games compared to Konami and Castlevania. So it's I don't know what got the ability or the chance to make something so similar to that. Even though, like, a lot of people would think that they sound familiar in the right realm of, I guess,
right,
fantasy, like stuff with the fascination, the hell, and all this stuff. It's just interesting that they would be able to pull something like that off. That's awesome, though. I'm glad that they were able to do something like that. They also suggested that the two series could potentially cross over in some way. It would be interesting to see Dante come over and hang out with oh crap, what is his name? Belmont. That would be fun.
And then moving on, I'm going to skip over the next few, just because there's 3 at the bottom of the list that I think are the most interesting. First up, we're going to talk about Halo. Now, this has been a very long-term speculation, very long-term thing going around. I can't remember which E3 it was. I want to say it was 2015 or 2014, one of those years, where during, I believe they were announcing one of the Halo games. It might have been Halo 5, and there was a clip or a short period where they had a video message from Steven Spielberg saying coming in no, they didn't specify a date. He's like, I'm going to be the executive producer for a Halo live action TV series. Man. But that was a long time ago. That was a very long time ago. So we're not actually sure. We've not heard anything. But this article outlines that it's probably coming to us in 2020, and we'll probably get more details when we get more details on Halo Infinite. That's supposedly, according to this article,
right there,
Halo Infinite is supposed to come out this year, apparently. But we'll see.
I didn't know about that.
I don't think that's true. I could be reading this wrong, but I don't think that's true.
I mean, that's a lot of information for a not major video game company website or news website.
Because if anything, Halo is going to come out when the new consoles drop, the new generation of consoles, and that's probably going to be next year, because that's also when Cyberpunk is going to come out, and it's going to be a good year of games next year. I think we're going to see a few interesting games, but it's going to be a bit of a lull. Anyways, going back to the topic.
If I could just provide a little bit more information. Sure. I'm guessing what the article writer did what I just did and typed Halo Infinite release date, and then pulled from PC Gamer, which it's a good chance that the initial release date was November of this year, but that's just speculation. So there's no actual set information. But
good to know.
Article was like, we're 100%, we're certain. It's like, okay, fine, whatever.
Next up, we've got Mega Man on the list.
That would be interesting. I really feel like that we got something similar to this. I'm not sure if Mega Man ever got an anime or not, but the closest thing I feel like we got into this was Astro Boy. Obviously not really.
I remember Astro Boy.
But, it was a similar style and all that stuff. And there was, in fact, a couple of animes for Mega Man. So do we want a movie out of this?
So sure. This is a live adaptation that's reportedly happening. Written, let's see, optioned by 20th Century Fox. Written and directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman.
This sounds dangerous. This sounds like the Dragon Ball Z live action movie Dangerous kind of thing. It's like, oh no.
Though, I don't know how old this report is. 20th Century Fox, as you know, went through a massive overhaul recently. I don't know if the deal's been finalized yet or not, but a majority of its assets have been acquired by Disney.
Yes, that is also very true. You're right. So
if it is a Disney-made movie, maybe the prospects are a little bit higher?
Maybe it's still scary. Just the words live action in general. Just like when it comes to Mega Man, just keep it CGI or cartoon. I mean, we got the anime. I think it's called Mega Man NT Warrior or something like that. Just leave it alone. Just leave it be. But there's going to be somebody out there that probably says Mega Man movie. Do we need it? No. Do people still want it?
Probably.
Maybe. People want money. That's all that matters. So
yep.
They're paying for it, and people will. If the executor in charge of this project hears enough drunk college students under an umbrella drinking, mimosas or something, saying, it'd be cool, Mega Man movie. He's like, I have my vindication. Jump to millions.
Common in Mayan says, like there's reportedly rumors about people wanting to make a live-action Naruto.
Plenty of that. They've just been all cease and desist by a bunch.
No, I mean it would be a Japanese movie for sure. But like think of what happened to live-action Death Note, live-action Full Metal Alchemist.
Dragon Ball Z live action.
No, live action Dragon Ball Z. Let's not even talk about that. I'm not a Dragon Ball Z fan by any means, but that was a garbage movie, start to finish.
Naruto has always been a cartoon, and the closest we got in the 3D was the cell shading with Naruto Shippuden, Ultima Ninja Storm, alongside a couple other games. But the idea of trying to put it into a realistic lifestyle, it's just not worth it. It feels like it's almost painful at this point.
Yep.
But people
what do we know? And people are still gonna pay money for it. Exactly. Now this last movie on our list, it is said that Shigeru Miyamoto will also serve as co-producer for a Super Mario Bros. Live action adaptation.
Highly suspicious. Professional doubt. Other cool terms I could say that say scary.
Oh, my apologies. Not a live. I read this wrong. An animated Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Top-notch, happy, excited, good, happy.
In January 2018, Nintendo announced that it would partner with Illumination, the studio behind Despicable Me and Minions, to create an animated Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Now, the question is, when they say animated, do they mean cartoon animated or CGI animated? Because
most likely whatever style Despicable Me and Minions are, so CGI.
CGI for sure. Okay.
And I feel like that would make sense because, look at the recent Super Mario, any kind of Mario games. So I don't feel like it'd be too far out of place.
Mario had to work with fucking Rabbids last year. Do you think he's gonna fucking see Minions coming up soon?
I hope not. I think that's too much of an ambitious crossover that I don't think Nintendo would allow.
I also want to point out that this announcement by Nintendo was over a year ago in January 2018, so we have not heard any further news about this. So the chances of this coming to fruition without any
minimal.
Very unlikely. But maybe they had a talk, at a table and had lunch one day and then just kind of, left it there. And, as an open offer, we'll see what happens kind of thing. So, I mean, this whole article is just a basket full of possibilities. Some of them more likely than the rest of them. Some of them scarier, for sure.
Very scary. But that's pretty much all the movies we had. And Tyler, do you want to tell us what kind of games we're expected to see in the next week?
Oh yeah, we got 3 big titles coming up. The first one is Senran Kagura Burst RE : Newal. So Senran Kagura Burst Renewal. Haha, it looks like Japan has won over us again. They're so smart. Coming out January 20th for the PS4 and PC. It's technically a remake. It's on the 22nd, which is a Tuesday. On the 24th, which is going to be Thursday, is Smite. Smite has already been out on most all their consoles, most notably the PC, but it's coming out for the Switch this Thursday. And lastly, and this is probably the biggest one, on Friday, January 25th, we're going to have Resident Evil 2, the remake for it, coming out on January 20. Oh, I already said that. For the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Now, this is going to be the full-on remake, and it is, in fact, not going to cost, $20, $30 like a lot of other remakes have been coming out. This is going to be a full $60 game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's, if they remake a game from scratch, and they post it out on, the modern-day systems, do you think it should be $60?
If they've done significant work, sure. You know what? At this point, it doesn't matter because they're going to do it anyways. I don't believe games should be $60, especially with the price disparity between physical and digital games. I feel like digital games should be at least $15 cheaper because you don't have to ship them, pack them, buy any kind of plastic or materials for these games, but they're all the same price. So my opinion here is very, it doesn't matter.
I guess the only thing I can think of originally was the Shadow of the Colossus remake, the HD remake. They maybe not worked out completely from the ground up, but something damn close to it. And I don't remember if they put it out for $50 or $60, but it was still way out there, a lot more than what people would have expected. Meanwhile, the Kingdom Hearts remake, I think at the highest was $50. So opinions, I guess. But yeah, It's $60 if you want to relive the nightmare of tank controls, the remodeled and improved, hopefully, on Resident Evil 2. But man, a couple of games came out this day in history, Nick.
Just two things. We've got Halo 4 Spartan Ops Season 1, Episode 6 to 10 that came out in 2013. Are you familiar with Spartan Ops?
No, is this a fucking mobile game?
No, so I can't remember if you had to pay for it. I feel like you had to pay for it, but think of it as basically a DLC that was rolled out slowly after the launch of Halo 4. Okay. And these were little episodes, they call it episodes, but they were more cinematic and story based. But you actually had to play through some of these missions, and they just gave you an insight to some of the events that happened after Halo 4. You're not playing as Master Chief; you were playing as a specific fire team. I think it was Fire Team Delta, Fire Team Crimson, or something. And so it goes through some of the events that happened post Halo 4 to sort of give you more. Give you more lore as to into the universe and what's happening, and they set up a few things for Halo 5. So yeah, that was Halo 4 Spartan Ops Season 1, Episode 6 to 10. Then this is a pretty big game, I think. Not a game that I played, but I feel like a game that we should appreciate. Metroid 2, The Return of Shamus, came out in Japan on this day in 1992.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that title one more time for me?
Metroid 2, Return of Shamus.
Is there a joke here? Are we trying to have a laugh here, Nick? Or is this
Samus? Samus?
Okay. Did you say Seamus? Is this just maybe a regional thing?
No, that's okay. I see that there's no age. Like that's the only thing. That's the only kind of name that makes sense. Samus doesn't make sense to me as a name.
No, that's perfectly understandable. Like Seamus would make sense if it was like SEAMUS or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. No, I didn't see that. You're correct. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were still like, are you trying to shame Samus? It's like what the
No, I would never. Metroid looks dope as fuck to play, but I just would never play it unless there's a new one.
Yeah, Metroid 2 Return of Samus came out this day 17 years ago in Japan. There's another game I'd like to give a shout out to.
Sure, let's go for it.
It came out for the Nintendo DS over in 2008. This game is now 11 years old. It is, I believe, the second or third game in the series. Advance Wars: Days of Ruin came out this day 11 years ago. A very popular turn-based battle tactics kind of game. Almost similar to Fire Emblem, except it was more machine-based. And it had a good effect on my life personally. But I'd figured, give it a shout out to him. I'm trying to scout through it real quick here, just to get a couple of chuckles.
Right, man. But as we've seen over the last few weeks, starting in about
1998, over in the
United 1998,
Resident Evil 2.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, Nick, we over, let's see, 21 years old. Resident Evil 2 just turned legal drinking age over in the U.S., which would make sense that people would want to celebrate by having a full HD remake coming out in a few days.
Yeah, and also, by that logic, Randy Pitchford would have all access. What? What?
oh boy.
What?
Oh man, that's brutal, man.
But as we've seen over the last few weeks, starting about mid-December, things tend to slow down in terms of game releases. So these lists will start to get more and more extensive, especially in Feb, because that's when there's a lot of things that's going to be happening, specifically Anthem, and we'll be talking about Anthem closer towards its release.
And we do have, let's see, it is currently Monday, which is the 21st. We have one more podcast episode coming up before we do hit the big week that is Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out.
Oh, so that's right.
That will be my main focus over in the next podcast after this one. But next one, you have me for little things. Hopefully I'll get to play a little bit more of some Sea of Thieves, as well as maybe Persona 5. I do need to find a game that I can play with my wife watching, which might in fact be Breath of the Wild. So I'm hoping to see what we can pick up back here. I did play and beat a lot of games this week, so I think it's time to, kick back a little bit on the cooldown, have some fun talks about other stuff. Or just play a shit ton of Destiny Child, because that's been eating up a very good amount of my time, and I'm very happy over it. So,
good to hear. Yeah. But Tyler, do you want to tell people where they could find you otherwise if they wanted to complain or rant?
Hell yes, absolutely. My friends, if you want to just say hello to me And, maybe you do. Maybe you do. I will actually respond to you. So enjoy yourself. Please take the chance and opportunity. You can find me on Twitter. I am at 2xTyler. All letters, all one word. 2xTyler. And you can check me out potentially on twitch.tv/2xTyler. But let's be real. I will let you know when that shit goes live and we can parade with beauty. It's currently under the wraps right now, just for the moment being. However, Nick, you are the professional go-to streamer of Casual Master Quest. Where can we find your work?
#deadstreamer, by the way, but you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at LRWarrior11, or you can find me on my Twitch at twitch.tv/LRWarrior11. You can find us of Casual Master Quest at MasterQuestPod on Twitter, or you can email us any questions, comments, or concerns at casualmasterquest@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
Any final words, thoughts, words of wisdom for our lovely listeners?
Nope, but you should try out the 3DS game that they did the remake of. I tried to Return the Seamus. Or Return of... Pardon me, I don't want to get that wrong.
Okay. Did you just say Seamus?
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good week, and don't forget to never stop the grind.
We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are you mad at me, Nick? What's going on here about the Seamus bit?